Gentlemen, good morning everyone. Let's take a seat. If you're still making your way into the conference centre, can you do so as quickly as possible? Find a seat in your house area and take a seat, please. Well, welcome everybody in here and online to the 2023 academic year. Staff have already been back for some time, and of course Nudgee never sleeps. As we know, there has been activity here all throughout the holidays. But as I always say, the place doesn't make any sense without you, and it is great to have you back and to have our academic year underway. Welcome to everybody. You'll be officially welcomed by Mr. Fulliger and our college captain, Jacob Gillum, in the fullness of time, but I just wanted to start by saying welcome. And we start, as always, of course, by acknowledging the Turrbal people of this area of southeast Queensland known as Meanjin. The Turrbal are the First Nation peoples and part of the oldest living continuing culture in the world. They are the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways that they call Numji and Nada, and we call Nudgee. We acknowledge their ancient customs, the law of the land. We pay our respects and acknowledge all ancestors, elders and communities across this continent and its neighbouring islands. As always, in this Catholic community, we commence all that we do, and even more importantly, we commence this year in prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. O God of justice and compassion, we place before you our needs as members of St. Joseph's Nudgee College. Nourish and inspire us to live justly. Guide us to be faithful to the vision of Edmund Rice, who showed a deep love for the poor and marginalised. Open our hearts and minds to accept and welcome all into our community. May we work together to build a better world and seek to live lives of love, service, justice and peace. To be sign of faith to all. St. Joseph,
Pray for us.
St. Mary of the Cross,
Pray for us.
Blessed Edmund Rice,
Pray for us.
live Jesus in our hearts.
Forever.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Kyle. Ladies and gentlemen, at the establishing assembly every year, one of the first things we do is we introduce new members of staff so that you can put a face to a name, particularly if their name appears on your timetable. That role is traditionally undertaken by the Deputy Principal. This year it would be a little difficult for the Deputy Principal to come and introduce new staff, as he is one of them. So it is my great privilege, before he comes to introduce the other members of the staff, to introduce to you Mr. Scott Thompson. I welcome Mr. Fulliger to the stage, who will officially welcome Mr. Thompson and the other commencing staff. Mr. Thompson comes to us as an established and experienced educator of many years. He has worked in schools across South Queensland and northern New South Wales, and before coming to be Deputy Principal of Nudgee College, he was the Principal of St. Joseph's College, Benora Point. Please welcome Mr. Scott Thompson to Nudgee.
Good morning, Mr. Fulliger, CLT, staff and men of Nudgee College. It's my honour and pleasure to introduce the new staff this year. However, I thought I'd just take a brief moment to expand on what Mr. Mara said in that very kind introduction there, about my background, a little bit about my background. And so, as he said, I've worked in many Catholic schools, most recently as Principal of St. Joseph's College at Benora Point. And this year marks my 26th year of educating young people in a Catholic faith. I grew up in Brisbane, and this is actually, funnily enough, my first paid job in Brisbane, since many of those people in the room may remember Kedron Pizza Hut on Gympie Road over at Chermside. Now, it's no longer a restaurant, but it was 27 years ago that I concluded my working life in Brisbane, and I headed on my journey that has gone full circle now and brought me back to this wonderful city. I grew up about 3 kilometres down the road there towards the city, just near off Sandgate Road. I'm really looking forward to, in coming to this wonderful school, meeting all of you. And the school that I previously worked in had a little over 800 students, boys and girls. So to come to a student of such a vast number of wonderful young men, I look forward to meeting many of you, and I encourage you, like many of those very generous souls this morning who came up, introduced themselves and welcomed me, to come up and say hello if you see me around. One of my true passions is making sure that students become the best versions of themselves. And at Nudgee College, each and every one of you, and the staff as well, have that opportunity. The possibilities that lay before each and every one of you are vast. And as I'm sure Mr. Fulliger will do soon, encourage all of you to take part in as many of those as you possibly can. One of the other things I look forward to, and I know Mr. Fulliger is going to speak to that in a moment, is seeing the virtues of the Faith Star lived out every single day in each and every one of you. And one of those things about community, I already feel very blessed to be part of that already. As I said, the welcome that I've received. I've had the opportunity to be involved already with our cross-country students. So I've done about 5 sessions with them. And yes, my predecessor, Mr. Johnston, he was very passionate about his running, as am I. As I explained to the staff members, whilst there's lots of similarities, some people joke that we may have been related or anything like that, but that's not the case. So I look forward to working with lots of students in the many activities that you've got available. Finally, before I introduce our new staff, I want to say that I feel utterly privileged to be in this role, that I look forward to the year ahead, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you thrive in this great school. So without further ado, I present to you the new staff members of 2023 at Nudgee College. Mr. Brandon Andrews. Mr. Andrews will be working in the English faculty. Mr. Riley Baxter. Mr. Baxter is a familiar face to many of you. He'll be working in mathematics. Mr. Adam Brown. Mr. Brown will be working in English and religious education. Mr. Chris Brown, who is one of our design and technology teachers. Mr. Ty Corbett, who'll be working in inclusive learning and maths and science. Mr. Tom Copeland, he comes to us as head of Waterford Boarding House and will be working in PE. Mr. Isaac Freeman. Mr. Freeman will be working in PE and design and technology. Miss Emma Gawthorne. Miss Gawthorne will be working to support students as one of our psychologists. Mr. Bradley Hemopo. He's the assistant head of Waterford Boarding House and will be working in maths, science and PE. Mr. Riley Kelly. He'll be working in science and mathematics. Mr. Matthew Lawler, assistant head of O'Brien Boarding House and working in the business faculty. Miss Eliza Landals. She'll be working in humanities and religious education. Miss Courtney Lee. You'll find Miss Lee in the Larkin Centre. Miss Caitlin Shields, working in business and mathematics. Mr. Tom Van Groesven, assistant head of Cotter Boarding House, design and technology. Please make our new staff members feel very welcome. I would also like to acknowledge a number of staff members who are returning from extended leave. So Mr. Richard Dupuy, Mrs. Sian Kennedy, Mr. Brendan McGuinness, and Mr. Jamal Sugars. So please, if you see them around, make sure that they feel very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Terrific for you to be so public on this first assembly, and terrific to meet the new staff. Amongst those men who are presented there, I think there are 3 old boys, so perhaps you'll be able to ask them if they teach you boys who is the old boy amongst them. So gentlemen, welcome to the new year of 2023. It really is an exciting day. We had new boarders come on Sunday. We had all other new boys along with the returning boarders in Year 12s here yesterday, along with our Year 7s as well. And today it's all of us in. I'm sure there's a mixture of feelings amongst you, some really excited, some perhaps still a little nervous, and some a little bit in somewhere in between that at the thought of returning to school. Perhaps as you've prepared for school, you've had to get rid of your summer mullet. I saw a few in the holidays. I hope you have. If you haven't, you will in the next couple of days. It's giving up those things that you've enjoyed over the holidays. Maybe it's riding a surfboard, a snowboard. Perhaps it's doing a bit more gaming than you normally do, more reading, or just racing around with the farm with the family and friends. Whatever it may be that you've done over the holidays and you've had a break from school life, that's been terrific and restorative for all of you. And now we come back to school and we commence the new year, I hope with lots of dreams and ambitions for the year ahead. Boys, as we come back, and as I said to all those who were gathered here yesterday, there's an enormous amount of work goes behind the scenes to prepare school for you. Yes, teachers to teach classrooms, for teach you in the classrooms, but also the hundreds of support staff who work here, many of them who didn't have a holiday over the holidays that you have had, because they've been here working on IT, been here working on property and services, they've been with you on camps and training camps over the holidays. They've been doing administrative roles in finance and admissions and across the full gamut of school. For all that to happen, an enormous amount of effort and work, largely unseen by you, but I hope appreciated. One way you can show that appreciation, we'll do that in a minute with a round of applause, but one way you can show that appreciation is your actions throughout the day at school as you're being respectful of the property and all those things that you were afforded to in this beautiful place called Nudgee College. So boys, let's put our hands together for all the staff who did that work over the holidays. Boys, we start today with 1,712 boys. Nudgee has never been bigger. There are 71 new boarders and there are 263 new boys who had their first day in a Nudgee uniform yesterday. And while we are a little bigger than last year, we were just over 1,700 last year, we're a little bigger. I asked the same question at the beginning of last year. Getting a little bigger is fine. That happens. More importantly, will we be a little bit better? So whatever you did last year. We've got new boys who've come back into the school. We've got new staff mixing with staff who've been here for a period of time. New boys mixing with the boys who've been here previously. Every one of us is a little different to last year. You're in a new grade. You're perhaps a little taller. You're bigger than you were last year. You've moved from Year 6 to 7. You've moved into Year 12. Whatever the change has been in coming to Nudgee, we are not the same as we were last year in many regards, and yet we are the same. And that's holding that tension between change and new energy and new ideas with sticking with those things that have served us well for a long period of time is part of the challenge of the year ahead. And one of those things that remain constant at this school refer to those touchstones and the faith star that Mr. Thompson referenced. The touchstones of a Catholic school in the Edmund Rice tradition. Those 4 values that we try to expose you to every day in ways like putting it up on an assembly notice such as this. But also in how we live and our actions across the school, in making those touchstones come alive, of being an inclusive community, of really engaging with our learning through liberating education, of living the gospel, saying a prayer, yes, but living those words as well, and all those things to do with justice and solidarity with each other and those people beyond the gates in this world of ours today. Of course, those touchstones marry, we hope, with the faith star of Nudgee College. Boys who've been here for several years, you'll know you've seen this one many times. The boys have just arrived, it may be your second or third time. We're a school of values. We're a Catholic school in the Edmund Rice tradition. It's one of the reasons why, if not the main reason why, your parents have sent you here. It helps to define us, those values that are there for you to see, that you should know. Courage, authenticity, excellence, community. All of them are centred around the faith at the heart of that, being truly Signum Fidei. Part of that journey we're on when the moment that you enter this school in year 5 until the moment you leave in year 12. And then that living that beyond as well. All of us challenged to be Signum Fidei, challenged to be that sign of faith. You'll hear those themes over and throughout the year. We don't apologise for that. And those sort of messages are blended with other things you'll hear. We'll talk about Nudgy Spirit. We'll sing about and talk about the 10,000 brothers. You'll hear references to a thing called the golden ticket. We'll talk about making every lesson count, the main game here at school. Lots of themes and others. There is just some that come readily to mind. We'll repeat it over and over throughout the school year as we try to build and develop the culture of the school, to try to improve on where we were last year, to be a bit better than we were last year. So boys, as you came today and as you packed your school bag and put your shoes on and uniform and got yourself ready to come to school, knowing that this moment's been coming for some weeks, perhaps many of you, or at least I hope many of you, would have thought about, well, what is my dream for this year? What's my ambition for this year? What are my goals for this year? Not just turning up and being here, as important that is, because that's probably the fundamental thing you've got to do, just turn up, all right? But what is your dream for this year? What do you want to achieve this year in your maths, in science, in tech, in a sports team, in a musical, or whatever it may be? The full range of opportunities at this school, which are many and varied and open to you to embrace and to have a crack at, to step up to that challenge, to strive for excellence, to have a dose of courage to try something that you've never done before, to be courageous and go against the thoughts of others. Whatever it may be, boys, that is there for you this year. And if I was to suggest 3 things that we could be better at than we were here last year, 3 simple dot points I'm hoping will come up. I think there's a challenge for us, boys, I'm speaking to those of us who were here last year, to be more focused in your schoolwork. Too many of you settle for the mediocre at times, settle for the average. Too many of you don't push yourself a little more in class than you could do. You leave it to the last minute. You're great young men in so many respects, but you could embrace your schoolwork and be more authentic to really aspiring to be the best that you can be. Because sometimes I don't think we go for the best we can be. We step back from that challenge. Why? I'm not sure. Only you can answer that for yourself. But I think if we could be more focused in our schoolwork, but you can apply that focus to lots of other areas. Perhaps there's other areas of school that you could have worked at. Maybe you were good at your schoolwork, but didn't have a crack at other things at school. Think about that one. We could be more resilient. That's a challenge for all of us in this crazy world that we are in today. The challenges of growing up and existing in a world that's moving and changing constantly. So to be resilient when things don't work out, when we failed that test or when we missed that team, when something goes wrong with a friendship, whatever it may be, we need to be resilient. We need to find ways to bounce back. We need to tap into the support that our teachers, our house deans, our boarding masters, whoever it may be that works with you on staff, to support you, to bounce back and not chuck it away, not to step away, not to give in, not to give up. Because at times there's some of you who do that. Right, so there's a resilience that's perhaps lacking in some of you that we could work on. And the last one, and I pick up, Jacob mentioned it yesterday, I hope he might even reference it again today, and that would be terrific if he did. And it's something Mr. Cannell referred to last year. We could be kinder. We could be kinder to each other. It breaks my heart to hear some stories of good nudgy boys just trying to have a crack at school, and other boys want to bring them down. Other boys who are unkind in the yard. boys who use a throwaway line that hurts another person, who shows a lack of respect. So if there's an area we could really, really develop, not just a little bit, but a whole lot this year, is to be kinder, to be kinder. So I share with you, because those boys who've been around here for a little while, you know I like to share a good email with you. Occasionally I share a disappointing email. So here's a cracking email from the holidays. This is what kindness looks like, boys. This is what Signum Fidei means, not at this school, but in the community. So we received this in January. The young man knows who we're talking about. So, to whom it may concern at Nudgee College, I'm writing to express my sincere appreciation and disbelief of the high calibre of students you have fostered at your school. In particular, the actions of a Year 11 student named amazed me as he supported my son during a stressful experience. Yesterday, my four-year-old and I were shopping at Westfield Chermside when we were separated while I was distracted at a store. Quickly after this, I realised my son had wandered off and I had no way of contacting him or finding his whereabouts. Many of you have been to Chermside. You know how big it is and how stressful it would be if you were lost, if your mum couldn't find you when you were a little fella. As you can imagine, I was incredibly distressed and anxious about what may have been happening to my son during this 20-minute period. That was when my name was called over the intercom system to report to the centre's service desk. When I arrived at the desk, I was relieved to see my son accompanied by one of your students. The student was holding my son's hand while my son was in visible distress. After comforting my son, ensuring he was safe, I went to thank the student, asking him his name and eventually talking to him about his school life. I was impressed by how positively he spoke about the college. When asked for his grade, I was in disbelief that he replied that he was only going into grade 11. The way he conducted himself and supported my son resembled the traits of a senior leader, let alone a 16-year-old. I'm extremely impressed with this encounter that I had with him being a student at your school, and I have no doubt that there are other students who would mirror this behaviour. That would be my hope, that is for sure. So she closes by saying, I hope that Nudgee College is very proud and honoured by the culture that they have created, which is shown through the students. So boys, if we can have a little bit more of that this year, tied with a little bit harder work in classworks, as well as embracing all the things at Nudgee, 2023 is going to be a terrific year. I look forward to it, boys. Thanks very much.
Good morning, Mr. Fulliger, CLT, staff, and my fellow Nudgee brothers. Welcome back. I hope you have enjoyed a relaxing break and are feeling refreshed and energised, ready to begin 2023. The start of a new year is always exciting. The new students and the Year 12s shared a great day yesterday, being introduced to Nudgee, the highlight for us all being the first cheering practice on Ross for the year. Today, the beginning of Term 1, is a great opportunity for a fresh start, to make new goals and to hit the ground running. We have the whole year to strive for success in all areas of school life, be it academics, sports, music, arts, or social justice activities. However, success can only be achieved if we are prepared to put in the effort. So with that in mind, I have a few pieces of advice for you all. Firstly, set goals and then make a plan to work towards them. Use a diary and plan your study time, training sessions, and your free time. It's important to establish a routine and find a balance. Secondly, utilise the support that is here on offer, such as tutorial sessions and homework help, but most importantly, connect with your teachers. Also, talk with your classmates and collaborate and work together. Thirdly, pay attention to the small details. Be organised, always complete your homework, turn up to training and activities on time, be a good friend, and always be kind. If you aspire to be the best in everything that you do, you will find that the rewards will soon follow. This term, we have plenty of activities on offer, and I urge each and every one of you to get out there and show your support for your Nudgee brothers. From swimming, rowing and volleyball to debating and cricket, Many hours of practice and preparation have occurred over the holidays. The boys would love to see you out there cheering for the blue and white and showcasing our nudgy spirit. For those of you who have only just stepped foot into the college, over the coming weeks and months, you will come to understand the term nudgy spirit. For those of you that have been at the college longer, it is your role to share this spirit with our newest nudgy men. Let our spirit motivate you to strive for excellence in all areas of college life. So let's start 2023 on the right foot. Make the most of every opportunity, support your nudgy brothers, and most of all, enjoy the journey. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Fulliger, CLT, staff, parents, and of course, my nudgy brothers. Over the past 48 hours, the Bathurst Boarding Village has opened its gate and welcomed 71 new boys into our community. These boys have displayed a commendable act of courage, stepping away from the familiarity of their family and their own home to open a new chapter of their lives. I'd like to take this opportunity to formally acknowledge and congratulate how well you boys have accepted the challenge that has been presented to you and made a strong start to your nudgy journey. Over the next few weeks at the college, you'll grow exponentially and undoubtedly will settle into the wider community and call this place your home away from home. I'm sure recently you've heard it over and over again, but I'd like to reiterate that the more involvement you have in the countless opportunities offered to you, the easier this phase of your journey will be. Finally, always remember to be persistent. There is a place for everyone here at Nudgy. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Fulliger, CLT, special guests, parents, staff, and Nudgy men. Most of the days since the end of term 4, there's been some Nudgy sport in action. Rowing camps, cricket tours, volleyball tournaments, athletics championships, swimming states, football clinics, cross-country training, tennis camps, strength and conditioning sessions, and a large rugby coach education conference. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the staff involved in these activities, and particularly those who took time away from their families. Boys, I'd also like to thank you who, after a busy year of sport, jumped in wholeheartedly at these extra opportunities. Welcome to the new students who started this week, and I'm sure it won't be long before you realise that Nudgy and Nudgy Sport offers far more than your average school. So despite all the events I mentioned, it was a quieter time over the summer than the rest of the year, and of course gave us some time to relax and perhaps enjoy sport through a non-Nudgy lens. We've had some great professional sport to enjoy, and while watching it, reflect on last year and look forward to 2023 and all the excitement that's in front of us. I was fortunate also to attend a number of conferences over the break and listen to athletes and coaches from a number of sports share some wisdom from their careers. So here's some thoughts on the summer and on the year ahead. And those of you who know me may guess, unfortunately, it does have more than its even share of Football World Cup references. I do apologise for that. Number 1, the place where success lives, failure lives also. 54 minutes into the World Cup quarter-final against France, Harry Kane scored to become England's greatest ever goal scorer. 29 minutes later, in the same game, Harry Kane missed a penalty to send his England team out of the World Cup that they had genuine aspirations of winning. From elation to devastation in less than half an hour. So when you're trying to succeed this year on the sports field, to get into the A-team, to bowl the last over, to swim the relay at GPS, to serve on match point, hopefully you succeed. But if things don't go the way you hoped, understand that's part of the journey. In order to succeed, you have to be willing to risk failure. Number 2, support from those around you is crucial. I attended a presentation by Olympic swimmer Kate Campbell, who talked about the team's journey towards the Tokyo Olympics. In preparation, the team worked hard on culture and supporting each other through the rigours of training and the pressures of competition. During the lead-up and into the games, they had a mantra. Whatever happened, they said to each other, "I've got your back. We, as a team, have got your back." In the Tokyo Games, in the medley relay final, Kate Campbell took a massive risk in the final changeover that gave her team the gold medal by 0.13 of a second over the favourites. Without that risk, USA would have won. Had Kate got it wrong, it would have meant disqualification and no medal for the entire team. She describes how she felt so confident to take that risk because she knew, win or lose, her teammates would support her. The Australian team, whose number one focus in the lead-up had been simply on supporting each other, came away with one of their best medal hauls of all time. So, if you miss a tackle, serve into the net, or drop the baton, let's hope your teammates come up and say, we've got your back. Number 3, the difficult times define you. At half-time in Qatar's first ever World Cup game, they were 2-0 down. Here's a picture taken just after half-time. When the team was losing, their fans simply walked out of the stadium. The team lost their other 2 games in the tournament without scoring a single goal. Maybe when they were losing was the time they needed their fans the most. So whether it's supporting the first team from the grandstand or bouncing back into training after a heavy defeat on the weekend, your commitment in the hard times might define you. It's easy to turn up and look good when the team is winning. It's tougher, but ultimately more rewarding to meet the difficult times head on. And here's another picture of Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best footballers in the history of the game, who spent most of the World Cup sitting on the bench. At some stage, everyone gets benched. How will you react? Number 4, hard work is the X factor. Many of our rowers and swimmers know this most of all as they push themselves physically in preparation for their championships later this term. I listened to Anna Mears, Australia's greatest ever track cyclist, talk about her journey from a small town in central Queensland to the very top of her sport. She was adamant that working harder than everyone else was the only difference. Hard work was the X factor. There's a video of Marnus Labuschagne batting in the nets before the Australia-West Indies Test match last month, close to 10 o'clock at night, and he refused to stop until he had middled a cover drive the way he wanted to. This from the player with the third highest batting average in Australian cricket history. At our rugby conference here on the weekend, Aaron Webb, the Crusaders Academy manager, reminds us of the quote, "I am better today than I was yesterday, but not as good as I will be tomorrow." Number 5, little things make a big difference. Here's the Japan fans after their game against Belgium. Cleaning the stadium, tidying not only their own rubbish, but those of the other supporters around the stadium. Maybe even more impressive given they had just lost the game. So when you go to Toowoomba, to TSS or to Tennyson, please show respect and leave things better than we found them. Number 6, there's more than one way to win. Here's a picture of Argentina celebrating their win against Netherlands in the quarter-final. Many people were happy that Lionel Messi won the World Cup. Not many people outside Argentina were happy that Argentina did. There's more than one way to win. As you strive for success in the sporting arena, bear in mind the way you treat your opponent and act when you're successful says far more about you than the win itself. So, as we go into this year, let's consider what we might judge as success come November 2023. Whether it's in the first 15 rugby team, the Year 10 fifth quad, or the Year 5F cricket team. Teams that stick together. Whether we're playing for a premiership or battling to get our first win of the season, support for each other, support on the sidelines, full grandstands. In those moments of triumph or those that feel like disaster, how are we treating the referees, the opposition, even our own families when we get back through the door? Hopefully in a manner that will mark you out as a nudgy man. When talking about England's new style of playing Test cricket under new coach Brendan McCullum, Captain Ben Stokes asked a question. If sport loses its enjoyment and its ability to entertain, then what do we have left? Good luck to all boys representing Nudgy in the sporting arena this year. Compete hard, but don't forget number 7. Smile and enjoy the year. Please welcome Ms. Kafagi, Director of Performing Arts.
Thank you, Mr. Pybus. Good morning, Mr. Fulliger, CLT, staff, and Nudgy men, old and new. I always like what Mr. Pybus has to say because there are so many similarities between sport and performing arts. We also work in teams, attend training sessions, have successes and failures that define us, need support, and have to work hard to be at the top of our game. We don't always compete, but there are competitive aspects to each activity, and we also represent Nudgy College with pride. Last year, you were encouraged to try the new in 22. This year, we hope to inspire you to strive to be a balanced me in 23. Many of the students who address you on assembly have become leaders within the school due to their involvement in all areas of Nudgy College life. One of these fine men is about to join me, and I ask our older boys to model excellent behaviour for our new students. This is Patrick Kennedy. Patrick is one of our 2023 leaders. You are all here primarily for what happens in the classroom. PK works super hard in classes and study. In fact, he shared the Ducks position for Year 11 with Will, whom you'll meet another time. You are all aware that there is a lot on offer outside the classroom as well. Patrick loves running and trains hard, early in the morning, sometimes when it's still dark, when it's hot, when it's cold, when it's sunny, and when it's raining. Patrick also plays chess and is a member of the First Four. He attends coaching sessions, he competes in tournaments and the GPS competition. He does post-match analysis to try and improve in the next game. He was even the chess captain last year. This combination of all things is what makes Patrick balanced. You don't need to be Ducks of your year, you don't need to be the fastest runner, you don't need to be in the top chess team, but you should try your hardest to be balanced and be like Patrick. And look, PK's smiling, he's enjoying his journey. Thanks, Patty. Some of our performing arts activities have already started. Many start next week. Read the student notices, sign up using TeamApp, ask questions, and get involved, and show us a balanced me in 23. I'd now like to invite Mr. Fulliger back to the stage.
Can I just thank Mr. Kafaji and Mr. Pybus for two terrific presentations, lots of great messages in there, and I thank them for that. Gentlemen, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the Assembly, many people worked hard for you in preparation for the start of this year, as they always have. The 23rd of January in 1983 was the start of one man's journey at Nudgy College. 40 years later, that person is still working at Nudgy College. If you're 10 or 15 or even 17, it's hard to appreciate what a commitment 40 years is. Unbelievable. Nudgy's a place where people come and make a contribution, some short, some long. But no one has made, in my knowledge, a contribution of 40 years' service. He's never spoken on assembly. You've never seen him at a house assembly. You'd rarely see him in the schoolyard because he's on the tools down the red shed. Kev Staines has been coming to work here for 40 years. Unseen largely by all those boys over that time. If there were around 200 new boys each year across 40 years, my maths tells me that's about 8,000 boys have come to Nudgy during that time and have benefited from the wonderful service, hard work and dedication of Kev Staines. So Kev, I'm going to ask you to come up on stage here, please. And gentlemen, I'm going to honour Kev. We're going to present him with a small plaque, which is something small, to be fair. So how do you say thank you for 40 years? But it honours his great service. Kev, now, before we acknowledge him, please don't go away, Kev. We acknowledged him on the staff, with the staff the other day. Kev's a quiet man, so he's never going to make a speech. He said the only way he'll allow us to recognise him if he doesn't have to make a speech. So I'll honour that. Some of you were here a couple of years ago when we put a book together called Reflections, the stories of people who are past and present at Nudgee. All right, people like Kev, people who were students here in that year. So Kev's words actually speak to who he is and what he's done. If I could just read this again as I did earlier today. I started at Nudgee College as a groundsman in January 1983. At that time, the college had just built a new administration building and the pool, so there wasn't much left in the budget when it came to maintaining the existing ground equipment and machinery, let alone buying anything new. So within weeks, my job went from mowing grass to repairing all kinds of things, and I loved it. I've always appreciated the mateship and camaraderie this place has had. In those early days, I'd jump out of bed and be champing at the bit to get to work, just to fix stuff and hang out with my mates. We'd work so hard, but had the best fun doing it, with lots of laughs and plenty of practical jokes. While that jump out of bed isn't quite as high these days, I still love what each day brings here. Boys, what a wonderful thing to love coming to work after 40 years at one place. What an achievement. Boys, I'd ask you to acknowledge Kev Staines in the strongest possible way.
Good morning, Mr. Fulliger, CLT, staff and parents, and of course my Nudgee brothers. My name is Ned Clark, and along with Eamon Marnie and Shane Warapulli, we are the Community Prefects for 2023. Our portfolio is student wellbeing and community building, and we're looking forward to strengthening the inclusive and supportive culture of Nudgee College. Over the next couple of weeks, we will have the time to share our hopes and plans for 2023. Today, my role is to go through the week ahead so everyone is on the same page. Today, from Assembly, we will move to morning tea and then run period 2 to 5 in a shortened format. Period 2 will start at 11:20, period 3 at 12:05, lunch at 12:45, period 4 at 1:30, period 5 at 2:15. Wednesday, Year 12 have investiture rehearsal in period 5, where we will meet Mr. Tuvey on Mount Zion Courts at 1:55 p.m. Our senior investiture is on Wednesday evening. Thursday, Australia Day public holiday. Friday, the period 1 SF plan is as follows. Year 5 and 6 in core classes. Year 7, 8 and 9 will be completing the SOS interview preparation in SF classrooms. Year 10, 11 and 12 will have start of year assemblies. Note the venues. Year 10 in Ryan Hall, Year 11 in CBCC, and Year 12 in Teenie. Debating will host their season launch and great debate, and rowing will be blessing the boats. Saturday, GPS rowing, regatta number 1 out of the dam. In GPS cricket and volleyball, we will have the bye, so we'll be playing trial matches versus Ambrose Tracy College. This week, take the time to introduce yourself to someone you don't know, and keep an eye out for anyone who seems a bit lost or needs a hand. Thank you.
Thanks, Ned. Well done on debut. Morning, everyone. It's wonderful, and echo the thoughts and comments of staff before. Wonderful to have you all back and seeing those smiles on your faces. I can also thank you for your attention this morning. Obviously, it's been a long assembly, but lots of listening in particular this week, kicking off our year, so we appreciate that. I'll just ask you now to sit up straight. We've got a few final moments to stay focused. Gents, I want to touch on a couple of areas of focus for us in the student formation area this year, and I hope that you pick up the connection between both of them. Firstly, and I also hope that you'd be well aware of this, one of our priorities is around student wellbeing. And we know that staff have a role to play in this, but ultimately our goals and dreams for you is for you to take ownership of your wellness journey. So what do we know? We know that happiness and fulfillment are central to our wellness. We also know that you need to be very deliberate in targeting those two things. Be present to people, your mates, your family, your teachers, your coaches. Little bits of time away from your devices. Be optimistic. We've heard lots about setting goals and starting the year well. It's an opportunity for you to aim high. Be brave. Take a few risks. Mr. Fullier referenced the keep turning up. So important for boys to achieve. Be in front and centre of every class. Be on time and focused on your learning. There'll be times when you'll need some resilience to face the challenges that pop up. Keep turning up. Make time for fun and laugh a lot. A wonderful saying that, again, we need to be deliberate. Comes back to that relationship. And the final one I've got there for you is to give something of you back. We heard a great story of a young man at Chermside, but look for opportunities to help others. At home, hang out the washing or mow the lawn. Help a friend with some schoolwork, volunteer in one of our programs, our social justice programs. Take that step of giving something back. The second point I want to talk about is around us resetting our high standards of behaviour and expectation. This is something that's we have identified as really sharpening and having a laser focus to ensure that you're achieving your full potential. You'll remember late last year, I consulted a number of boys on our mobile phone policy. We also spent time talking to teachers. And to be fair, largely that will remain unchanged. There's a couple of points for you to consider, please. So our year 5s to 10 lads, phones are not to be seen between 8:20 and 2:55. Now we've extended that from 8 a.m. We take into account those boys that are busy with training and those things before school. You have an opportunity to have some breakfast in the learning centre. You can use your phone, get organised for the day, and then at 8:20 when that PC bell goes, they're away. Year 12s, you have a little bit more responsibility, but generally your phones are not seen at all in classes. You have the opportunity to use those in breaks to check calendars and emails as you may need. Just one other thing that I want to highlight there, and as a reminder that there's to be no boys taking photos or videos with their phone of other boys or staff. And that is extremely important. Many boys have made mistakes over periods of time engaging in that. Breaches of our policy will be much more tightened this year. So your first offence, your phone will be confiscated. You'll be able to come to the student office and collect that at 2:55. The second time you'll be issued with a detention. Naturally, the phone's confiscated as well, and you can also collect that at 2:55. Okay, both of those occasions, your parents will receive an email. Gents, if there's a third time, you won't be getting your phone back. That will be left in the student office for your parents, carers or heads of boarding house to collect only. Okay, please note our serious take on that. Gents, you'll also feel a blowtorch on maximising our learning time. There are a couple of simple points that we can really increase the opportunity of you in the classroom. One's around our behaviour and our conduct and not taking away from that learning opportunity of others. Those boys that struggle to focus, that will be a highlight. You'll be expected to be on time every day, every lesson. Okay, teachers have been given an extra function on the roll marking this term as a trial. So there'll be 3 options. You'll be marked present, late to class, or absent. And that data will be closely followed throughout the trial of term 1. And if you're in breach of those, you'll be hearing more. And finally, one of my big bugbears is boys wandering during class time. Gents, it's not appropriate or acceptable to be using class time to be going to the toilet, filling water bottles, looking for your sports bag, finding your laptop. Okay, this year we are organised, we are using the breaks to maximise our learning. Let's make sure that we're clear on that and we move forward in a really positive manner. One last note, please, just from the Learning and Teaching Office. Unfortunately, there's been a little hiccup between your Google Calendar and your Student Cafe and hard copy timetable. So there'll be some boys that your Google Calendar will not reflect what's on your timetable. So for today, please make sure you are looking at your timetable, the hard copy that you were given in PC, or the Student Cafe version. There may be a mistake with your Google Calendar, so please make sure we're onto that for your periods 2 to 5 today. Last note, just from the also from Learning and Teaching, is that if there's any boy wishing to change subjects at this late stage, you need to make an urgent appointment with the staff in the Learning and Teaching Office. Gents, all the best for the start of the year. We're certainly looking forward to the energy you bring and the wonderful achievements that we'll see throughout the year. As is our custom, we'll finish with 3 cheers, and I'll ask Lockie Cox, please, to come forward as the sports prefect to lead that today. Well done, Lockie. Thank you to staff. You're welcome to